Bell hosking for FinextraTV here at Cybos in London. And I'm talking to Guzide Koksal of Mastercard and Chris Hamilton of BankservAfrica. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're talking Africa.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of change in the African payments landscape over the last 10 years. What do you think the next milestones are?
Africa is very diverse. Every single country has its own challenges and innovation styles. But what we're seeing lately is with the introduction of all the digital payments, the world is becoming a more interconnected place. And the technology innovations are coming mostly bottom up. So what we're seeing as the next step is to create more interoperability and specifically around the remittances space and enable everyone to be able to get paid and pay. So that's what we are observing. Of course, we're collaborating with the governments, with the central banks, because the financial inclusion is not only combating the poverty, but also helping the economies grow. And with the innovation, with the different types of payment methods and technology, we're enabling every single consumer in the environment to be able to pay securely and get paid.
Absolutely, yes. You're absolutely right. The really big opportunities are around bringing together the great innovations and the new networks that have been developing in the last 10 years or so. So Africa is incredibly complicated, and here's three white people sitting here talking about Africa, but 54 countries, 1.2 billion people, just thousands of cultures and languages. The richness is fantastic, but also the complexity and the fragmentation is challenging. So what if we as payment organisations can do something to bring some of those pools of innovation and pools of economic development together, we can help everybody move along a path.
And you talk about payments innovation, and over the last few years, the African continent has become sort of a hotspot for payments innovation. I mean, in what areas do you think financial institutions and technology providers have contributed towards this?
What we're observing is technology innovation, as I said, is coming a bit bottom up. So we are working in collaboration with the financial institutions to get involved more and more. For instance, likes of M-Pesa, so they changed the whole payment landscape in the continent. So the people get paid and can pay any kind of goods or any services with their mobile wallets, even though they don't have a bank account. So the financial inclusion and the collaboration of the financial institutions are becoming really important. But what we are observing is, because of this whole technology innovation coming bottom up, the market is being a bit defragmented. So this is impacting the whole ecosystem. And for that reason, the government and the policymakers are trying to tap into the domain and provide real-time payment infrastructure throughout the continent, within the countries as well. So in a nutshell, all the financial institutions, including policymakers, governments, central banks, should be able to collaborate and lead the way to enable interoperability and integrate all these networks within each other. Because otherwise, the market will be more and more defragmented, and the oversight will be even more difficult.
Yeah, because it's ironic, really, because I think we all know that the future of payments in Africa is mobile driven. There is no doubt that the device that's sitting in everyone's pocket, and in Africa it still matters whether it's a feature phone or a smartphone, but both have to be accommodated, is how we will get a new level of financial inclusion to a much larger number of people, which is terrific. What we don't know yet is exactly what the mechanisms and the networks that will connect the mobile phones together are, and there are probably half a dozen different candidates. There are card-based solutions, there are native wallet-based solutions, there are electronic payment-based solutions. So there's a lot of challenge in working our way through all of that complexity and coming up with a seamless, interoperable network. But it's a sort of exciting thing to work on now, because we kind of know what the guiding star is.
So you've got your guiding star. What about collaboration in B2B payments? I mean, what would the benefits be of that?
Yeah, so the first thing to say is it is such a large challenge, right? As I say, the sheer size of Africa and its complexity means there is room for everybody to help in this endeavour. But also collaborating and partnering and bringing the best of different capabilities gives us lots of opportunities that might not otherwise be available. Mastercard with the VocaLink technology and framework can bring a world-class capability to the continent. We have 46 years of sheer hard yards operating experience on the ground in Africa, and with the ability therefore to sort of supply that sort of resilience. So if we can somehow bring those two things together, we've got a really, some really interesting potential there.
I can echo almost everything Chris already said. So Africa is massive and rich, and there are so many opportunities. And we believe that our collaboration will bring the global and local expertise and experience together, because being a local partner in Africa is extremely important. And just like Chris said, we have been doing in the payment business for the last 50 years. And we want to bring this expertise together with the local experience and expertise and provide interoperable, cost-effective, easy to reach infrastructure solutions around real-time payments for the continent.
Yeah, and look, I expect, Guzide, you will have noticed this as we've gone around the continent. One of the big challenges is not so much that there isn't the interest. There are central banks and payment associations and banking associations sort of keen to grab hold of the opportunity and develop infrastructure. There are aid agencies and development organisations that are keen to supply funding for this, right? I think what's the sort of missing magic ingredient is some sensible, well-developed educational framework and information around what's possible and what can be done. Where are the priorities? Where do we start first? What can be done this year? And then we can do something else next year. Getting all of that stuff right and avoiding the temptation to build something because somebody else has it. So it's the thing I'm really keen to do is to develop the understanding in the marketplace in Africa about what's possible and what the priorities should be.
Indeed. So to add to that, just like Chris mentioned, so we are not only collaborating together as two organizations, but we're collaborating with the governments, central banks and policymakers, because the need is there, but there are so many things that can be done and it can take long and it can be costly.
Yeah.
So for the continent, we're looking for deploying and providing technology which is easy to reach and fast to market, can resolve the day-to-day problems of the consumers.
Yeah, and the key there is the technology is central. You don't get to where you want to go without deploying the right technology. But it's not enough by itself. This is the other challenge that I find in Africa. There's a bit of a tendency to build a system and go, okay, we're done now, but it doesn't work that way. There's a whole ecosystem that has to develop around each network system that means that the banks who use that system have the skills in-house to deploy products to the end consumer so that they've got something on the mobile phone that connects to that system. There needs to be a community education framework which helps people understand the opportunities and benefits they get from doing stuff on their mobile phone instead of living in cash. There's a lot of general human development work to do there as well as the technology deployment.
Indeed.
Well, Chris and Guzide, that's been a really interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure.